So our second skill set that I'm going to talk about is multiplication and division of fractions, which is slightly more intuitive than addition and subtraction, where we just have to make sure that we change the denominator so it's the same first. We can't just add the numbers however we feel like it. When it comes to multiplication and division, we take a problem like this, and we have 3/4 times 4/5, and when we multiply, so if we're multiplying, we're going to multiply numbers on the top and multiply numbers on the bottom, and we would get 12 over 20, which reduces, because we always want things in lowest terms, which reduces to 3 over 5. Now, before we even start, though, go back to the beginning, you may remember that if we really want to be efficient, if we really want to do the best multiplication possible, then we want to remove factors along the diagonal before we even begin the problem. So here, right, since I have a 4 along the diagonal, I can divide those 4's out. I can reduce common factors along two places, right, in two areas. The first is along the diagonal in our multiplication, and the second is along the vertical, if we have a fraction, again, that isn't already in lowest terms. Alright, so keep that in mind as we go. It might make it a little bit easier to do some of these problems. And so here we can see our process for multiplying fractions. Step 1, reduce all shared factors vertically and diagonally. 2, multiply the numerators and the denominators together. If we reduce all those shared factors, we shouldn't have much work left to do at the end. Okay, so here's another example. Example 2. 4/6 times 3/7. Well, that's going to be, let's reduce vertically first. So 4/6 becomes 2/3, and then that's times 3/7. And then before I even go and do the multiplication, I'm going to reduce along the diagonal. So I have 1 and 1. And now I can multiply across the top and across the bottom, and we're left with a nice clean answer of 2/7. Alright, you might want to take a second, pause the video here before you go any farther, and do all the reductions, and then check to see if I come out with the same thing. So if we have 3, it just means a little bit more prep work. So if I have 3 here, I'm going to again rewrite 1/4 times 5/8. I'm going to rewrite 2/10 as 1/5, which is the reduced form there. Now, when I reduce across the diagonal, I'm only really going to reduce one factor with one factor. I'm not going to, if I'm going to reduce this 5 out, it's the 5 here reduces to 1, and the 5 here reduces to 1. And now I multiply all the numbers across the top and all the numbers across the bottom, and my result is 1 over 32. Okay? So it might get a little bit harder with the number of fractions we have, but ultimately the process remains the same. Second skill is division. Right? So now I'm looking at a fraction divided by a fraction. And the thing that we should be thinking in our head, well, is the phrase, perhaps you've heard, flip upside down and multiply. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplication by reciprocal. And there's a math word that you should have from previous portions of your math career. Multiplication by reciprocal. What does that look like? Well, if I have 1/3 divided by 2/5, that's the same problem as 1/3, the numerator, times the reciprocal of the denominator, which is in this case 5/2. Now I'm just doing a multiplication problem, and it comes out to be 5/6. So what's our process then for dividing fractions? Rewrite the division as multiplication by reciprocal, and then follow the process for multiplication. So it's really just one skill. We just have to make a quick change first. One last example before we're done. 3/7 times 5/6. So rewrite it for multiplication. That's 3/7 times 6 over 5. Multiply across the top and across the bottom. We're left with 18 over 35. No reduction left to be made, and we're all set. And that's our skill for the weekend.